10th of May, 1940. At 5:35 a.m., the Germans unleash their offensive. German paratroopers are dropped into Holland. They are the vanguard, the first of 3 million invaders. The Wehrmacht marches into Belgium. This is Hitler's decoy. The Germans pretend they're going to attack France through neutral Belgium, as they did in 1914. The French General Gamelin, Commander-in-Chief of the Allied forces, is confident. He has everything covered. He fine-tuned his strategy during the phony war. Gamelin moves his best motorized divisions, the elite of the French army, into Belgium, along with the entire British Expeditionary Force. These are fighting soldiers with true grit. They will stop the German advance through Belgium. But Hitler, in his headquarters, is gloating. His decoy worked. He exclaims, "I could weep for joy." He instructs Field Marshal Goering, who commands the Air Force, not to bomb the French columns, to let them proceed deep into Belgian territory. And he attacks them from the rear. His real offensive will be through the Ardennes. According to the French High Command, no tank could ever get through those densely forested hills. But nothing stops them, except their own traffic jams. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands and Belgium, people who own cars are among the first to flee. Everyone is suspected. A so-called fifth column is feared, spies working for the Nazis. The Germans continue their diversionary tactics, invading Belgium with specially trained airborne forces. The sappers belt out their song from the campaign in Poland. The girls will have to wait, comrades. It's time to go, comrades. On the 11th of May, at daybreak, they are dropped into Belgium. Their goal is to capture the linchpin of the Belgian defense system, Fort Eben-Emael, on the Albert Canal, which is reputed to be impregnable. An intrepid German soldier heaves himself onto the top of a turret with a load of explosives. The conquerors stride through the ruins of Fort Eben-Emael, the key to Belgium. Images such as these will forge the Wehrmacht's reputation of invincibility. After the fort falls, people scramble to catch the last trains to Paris. In the French capital, the Red Cross is swamped. Belgian refugees are transferred to cattle cars heading south. As the Germans enter Liège, panic grows and spreads. Faced with such a show of force, there are only two options: obey or flee. Many of the refugees are people from the countryside. As in many times in history, farmers have always been the last to flee, loath to abandon their crops and their animals. The great Belgian poet Émile Verhaeren wrote, "The people around here have nothing at all, nothing before them, but the endlessness of the open road. The people who work the fields, the people around here, have only endless misfortune." The Germans unleash their aerial offensive, destroying strategic crossroads, airfields, refineries, and fuel supplies. Cities in northern and eastern France are bombed. The French are now facing the reality of modern warfare. In the Netherlands, the port of Rotterdam is ablaze, the result of a German terror bombing raid, like the one in Warsaw. But these bombs were dropped after the city had surrendered, another of Hitler's war crimes. In London, the new Prime Minister is Winston Churchill. His first speech reveals his determination to keep fighting, whatever the circumstances.
I will say, without a doubt, that the fate of Holland and Belgium, like that of Poland, Czechoslovakia and Austria, will be decided by the victory of the British Empire and the French Republic.
But things have suddenly turned very grim in France. In just 3 days, the Germans have swept through the Ardennes and are advancing towards the French defensive line on the Meuse River. They are closing the net with their pincer movement, seeking to entrap the Allied troops massed in Belgium. The German infantrymen knock over the French as if they came from a different world. With their hand grenades, machine guns, and with their sleeves rolled up, they take the town in 1 day. Sedan, the key to the Ardennes, which was already terribly marked by the French defeat in 1870. But the real obstacle for the Germans is the Meuse River. On the night of the 13th of May, they bring in beams to build bridges. The French fight back. But the Germans neutralize the French artillery, and the next morning their sappers finish the bridge, galvanized by the general, Guderian, a 52-year-old Prussian, a great armored warfare strategist, using tanks to strike with force, daring, and speed. The Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, should not give the enemy time to react. First, the tanks, followed by infantry, and backed by aircraft, especially the Stukas. The Stukas, dive bombers equipped with sirens. Resisting the intense pressure of the descent, their highly trained pilots release their bombs at the last minute with lethal precision. The French Prime Minister Paul Reynaud telephones Churchill in alarm. "We have been defeated. We have lost the battle." The French generals are at a loss. They are unable to react to the situation. With the Allied forces tied up in Belgium, how can they stop the Germans from advancing? In Paris, the French authorities are trying to deal with the increasing number of refugees. People from Belgium and northern France are pouring into the city. Schools, hospitals and barracks are soon overflowing. Information is sparse, rumors abound. Has Gamelin committed suicide? No. The French High Command has just realized that the Germans are heading for the coast and that the Allies have fallen into a trap. A counterattack is ordered, allowing a certain Colonel de Gaulle to distinguish himself at the head of a tank brigade. The French army possesses more tanks, and they are of better quality than the German panzers. But without any reinforcements or aerial support, the French tanks become prey to the Stukas. The French combatants put up a good fight, but they wonder why the Air Force isn't protecting them. Poorly prepared and with fewer planes, the French pilots are heavily outnumbered by the Luftwaffe, but they fight courageously. Dozens of German pilots are shot down and taken prisoner. Some of these pilots will be returned to Germany when the armistice is signed and will then join the battle against Britain. The German tanks move swiftly through the towns and villages of northern France. Valiantly, the French try to slow the German advance. The Germans crush any pockets of resistance. The Germans have reached the English Channel. Hitler's strategy of the sickle cut has worked. The British Expeditionary Force, the Belgian Army, and the French Armed Forces are encircled. The Belgian king surrenders, along with his army. The British Expeditionary Force withdraws towards the coast, leading to the final collapse of the Allied armies. In Paris, the French Prime Minister Paul Reynaud dismisses Gamelin and finds a new savior, General Weygand, 72 years old, one of the artisans of the Allied victory in 1918. To bolster morale, Reynaud names another World War I hero as vice premier, 84-year-old Marshal Pétain, who will soon turn his back on Reynaud's policies. Weygand has no choice. He too is forced to order a full retreat towards Dunkirk. Hitler lets them go. A gesture of clemency towards Great Britain? Is he still hoping for a separate peace? Or has Goering assured him that his air force is capable of preventing an evacuation? 400,000 men cram the beach, helpless and in disarray. They have one last chance to escape, over the sea. Churchill orders any vessel that can float to go and get them.